Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Witt from Fort Bend Tutoring, and today's tutorial is going to be about solving logarithmic equations. This is brought to you from the East Texas Homeschool Collective for the Afrocentric child, and we're going to say a shout out to MamaGena. What up, MamaGena? As well as to Gage. Hope you guys are doing well. So we're going to dig right in to the lesson. On the right side of my notepad here, you'll find some properties that we'll be utilizing throughout the lesson, guys. So I wanted to point those out real quick. The first one is going to be your conversion from logarithmic notation to exponential notation. A lot of times this is going to really help you solve a logarithmic equation. In addition to that, I'm showing you that if you have the logarithm, all right, of m, that's the argument m, equals to the logarithm of n, that would represent the argument for that second logarithm, then m must be equal to n. So that's going to be called, I believe, the one-to-one property for logarithms. Then you'll have, in this situation right here, you'll have the logarithmic property called the product rule. Notice that we start out with an argument of mn, and in return, you're able to expand that logarithm into addition, stating that the logarithm of m plus the logarithm of n is going to be identical to that value. And then, of course, the final one is called your quotient rule. The quotient rule for logarithm takes that ratio, that fraction there inside of the parentheses for the argument. And when you expand that, instead of addition this time, like in the product rule, you'll end up with subtraction. So it becomes the logarithm of m minus the logarithm of n. So what we'll have in problem number one is the following. We have log base 3 of x equals 4. So this is a perfect example to show you that you can use conversion from logarithmic form to exponential form in order to solve the logarithmic equation. So I'm going to start with the base of 3 from our logarithm raised to our result of 4 is going to equal to the argument, which in this case is x. So I now end up with 3 to the 4th power equals x, guys, and now we can expand that to 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and this is going to be equal to x. That's right, Gage. And now we're going to go ahead and multiply this together. So if we choose just to multiply this out in pairs, let's say, 3 times 3, of course, is 9, and then you'll have another pair of 3's, which equal to 9 when multiplied. That equals to x, Gage. And then multiplying 9 times 9, we end up with our answer, which is 81. And I like to red box it, guys. So we end up with our solution for problem number one. There you go. That's problem number one, y'all. All right, moving on to our next problem. For problem number two, we are given the following. Let's go ahead and scroll up, huh? We have the natural log of the quantity x minus 1 equals to the natural log of 5. Now, when dealing with logarithmic functions, you need to know that if you see ln, all right, instead of log, that simply means that you're dealing with a natural logarithm. And that natural logarithm's base is e. E is the Euler's number. It's also called the natural number, okay? So Euler's number versus the natural number. Either way, that value is approximately 2 and 718 thousandths, all right? So that is generally the value, the approximation for the natural number there. And utilizing that information as well as reminding you guys that, hey, if you have that one-to-one situation where you have the exact same logarithmic base on both sides of the equation, then the arguments must be equal to one another. We're going to utilize that to our benefit here. So that means that because I'm recognizing that this logarithm, which is the natural logarithm, is identical to this logarithm on the right side, then that means that we can go ahead and set the arguments equal to each other. Therefore, x minus 1 must be equal to 5. Now, solving for that, all I have to do is just add 1 to both sides of the equation. So that's going to end up giving me x equals to 6. And you want to keep in mind, guys, that your argument, when you're dealing with logarithms, it has to be a positive number. You cannot take the logarithm of 0, nor can you take the logarithm of the negative number. So that means you need to always check to make sure that this doesn't cause a negative argument or an argument equal to 0. So if we were to plug in 6 back into the original problem, guys, let's say we plug it in for x right here, plugging in that 6, you'll have 6 minus 1 inside the parentheses, which gives you 5. Well, that means that both sides of the equation equal to each other now, because the natural log of 5 does equal to the natural log of 5, and therefore we can verify. We have just verified here. that your answer is definitely 6. Now, if you do end up with an argument when you plug it back in, that's going to be negative or 0, guys, that means that you have an extraneous solution. And in that case, you don't even write that answer or mention it in your solution. All right, let's move on to our next problem, guys. We have problem number 3. All right, so with problem number 3, notice on the left side of the equation, we have 2 logarithms, and these logarithms are called common logarithms because notice you don't see like a subscript, you don't see a number underneath that next to that logarithm there. So what we do is we assume, because this just has log involved, that this is going to be a common logarithm, meaning that the logarithm's base is 10. So when you see log x, assume that it's equal to log base 10 of x, all right? And that is what you call your common logarithms there. And for this problem on the left side, because we have these 2 logarithms adding to one another, we'll have an opportunity to use the product rule. Okay, so remember that product rule is if you have log of m plus log of n, then that'll be equivalent to log of m times n. Yeah, so we're going to do that there. So rewriting the left side of the equation, I'm going to say that we have the common logarithm of x times x minus 3, and this equals 1. From here, guys, I'm going to use my conversion from logarithmic form to exponential form, all right? So that means that I'm going to note that my base is 10 for this logarithm, and I'm going to rewrite it as 10 to the result of 1 equals to x times x minus 3, aka that argument of the logarithm. Now that I've rewritten this, I'm noticing that I have a quadratic equation, right? So I'm going to be able to get my arrows popping here on the right side. So I'll have 10 equals to x squared minus 3x. And after subtracting 10 to both sides of the equation, because I do want to write this quadratic equation in standard form, I'll have x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0 gauge, just like that. So we're looking for 2 factors of 10. And what are those factors of 10? We got 1 times 10, we got 2 times 5. So I believe we'll use the 2 times 5, right? Because those 2 values we'll be able to subtract to give us 3. So opening up 2 sets of parentheses, I'll have my variable x, I'll have my factors 5 and 2, and we'll need to keep the sign of the largest factor the same sign as that middle term's coefficient. So the 5 must be negative, and because we're subtracting, the 2 needs to be the opposite side, therefore it needs to be positive. It's now that we have it in this form, Gage, that you can start using the 0 product property. So that means that I can set each factor separately equal to 0 to solve for x. We will be keeping in mind that you cannot take the logarithm of a negative value, or 0 for that matter. So that means that I'll end up with x being equal to 5, possibly. And in the second equation, after subtracting 2 to both sides, we'll be able to say that potentially that x could also equal to negative 2, right? But what we need to verify is that these values, when plugged into the original problem, don't make any of the arguments negative or make them equal to 0. So if I plug in 5, for instance, right, and we plug that into the original arguments, if I plug in 5 into this first one, that's just 5, and that's fine because that's a positive number. If I plug in 5 here for x, 5 minus 3, that gives us 2, and it's okay to have the logarithm of a positive number 2 in this case, right? So what we'll do next is we'll check out the negative 2, all right, because the 5 worked. It didn't cause any negative arguments, all right, or negative values when we're trying to take the logarithm of it, nor did it cause any zeros, so we're good there. So now plugging in negative 2, if I try to plug in negative 2 into this first argument here, I'm going to end up with a negative value, and I can't have that. So that means that this particular solution is called an extraneous solution. We cannot use that in the problem solution set, okay? So we're going to ignore it altogether, and the only answer to problem number 3 is 5. Red boxed it, just like that, all right? That was problem number 3, guys, and now we'll move on to problem number 4. You got it. So here with problem number 4, we have an opportunity to use a property that we haven't used thus far, and that is called the power rule. Anytime you have a coefficient, a number in front of a natural logarithm or a logarithm for that matter, you can raise that coefficient to an exponent. We call that the power rule. All right. So my first step in solving this problem is to take that 2 in front of the natural log of x and make it the exponent on the variable x. So it becomes the natural log of x squared. That's how we're doing that. And because we now have subtraction on the left side of the equation, we're going to note that we can use the quotient rule. The quotient rule is used when you have the same logarithmic base subtracting, all right? We do have that in this case because remember the natural log has a base of e. So we're going to be able to rewrite this as the natural log of the quantity of x squared over 4, and this is going to be equal to 3. So now that I have it in this form, this logarithmic form, we're going to use the conversion into exponential form. Remembering that the natural log has a base of e, that's right, Euler's number, that's right, the natural number. We're going to now say that this is going to be equivalent to e to the third power, which equals x squared over 4. From here, go ahead and multiply both sides by 4 gauge in order to get rid of that fraction on the right side. Simplifying, you'll have 4e to the third power, which equals x squared. Then, using the square root property, I'm going to raise both sides of the equation to the 1/2 power, which is the same thing as taking the square root of it. All right. So simplifying this out, what happens is on the right side, the 2's will cancel out to leave us with x. And then on the left side, of course, using that square root property rule, you'll have a plus or minus over here. This is going to be plus or minus 4 to the 1/2 after you distribute that, e to the 3/2 here. And we can go a step further and we can say that 4 to the 1/2 power is equivalent to the square root of 4. So that's 2. And we'll just leave that e to the 3/2 power. Now, the thing is that back in our original problem, guys, we had 2 times the natural log of x. And you know the argument cannot be negative, which means that we're going to ignore that negative version of that plus or minus 2e to the 3/2 power. And we'll just end up with a solution of 2e to the 3/2 power. And this is our exact answer to the problem there. That was problem number 4, guys. All right. We're on to our last problem gauge, so hopefully this is helping you out, bruh. We have problem number 5 with log base 5 of the quantity 3x plus 1 equals to log base 5 of 2x minus 1. Once again, this is an opportunity for our one-to-one property, which means that because we have the exact same logarithm with a base 5 on both sides of the equation there, we're going to be able to set simply the arguments equal to one another. So that means that I'm going to be able to set 3x plus 1 equal to 2x minus 1 because they had the exact same logarithms on either side of the equation. So solving for x, I'm going to subtract 2x to both sides initially, gauge, like so. I'll be bringing down x plus 1 equals -1 and then subtracting 1 to both sides, just like this. This is going to give me x equals to -2. But recall, we got to test this to see if it works. Just because it's negative, don't assume that that's going to be an answer that you're going to have to exclude. You'll still need to plug it in to verify that. So, for instance, plugging in -2 into these values of x here, what happens? Well, 3 times -2, if I'm looking inside of the argument here, gauge, 3 times -2 is -6, right? And then -6 plus 1, that gives me -5. So now I know that when I plug in this result of -2 into the argument, the original argument, I end up with a value of -5. I can't have that. I can't have that. So therefore, this is going to be excluded. We're going to call this an extraneous solution. And that means that because it's an extraneous solution, gauge, that means that this particular equation has no solution. So the answer is going to be no solution, or you can use the empty set to show that this equation has no solution to it. All right, so depending on the authors, depending on your teacher, you can use either no solution or the empty set, and that is how it's done, guys. All right, so this is once again Mr. Witt from Fort Bend Tutoring, and also giving a shout out to the East Texas Homeschool Collective for the Afrocentric child, and MamaGena, what it do, and Gage, appreciate you stopping by, guy. And that's going to do it for us today, guys. Peace. Take care.